All right, indeed, a beautiful day to be alive and well, and I would like to welcome you on today's edition of the show. It's always nice to have you join us. This is Political Spectrum coming to you live from Uyo, the state's capital, and I remain your host, Onese Ehinoma Olusegun, saying good morning and have, as always, today promises to be exciting and engaging. And as usual, our conversations continue on everyday political and economic developments in Nigeria. Policy and policy actions of government with immediate reactions by citizens, big businesses, institutions, and civil society to it. Now, we'll follow conversations from its citizens who are directly impacted by such policies or executive orders, and with a view to throwing light on government activities, decisions, and/or direction. But first, on President Bola Tinubu's administration's calendar, today is the 9th of October, Wednesday 2023, the day of our Lord, and it marks exactly 134 days of President Bola Tinubu in office as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And this is now exactly 4 months and 14 days and as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. All right, moving straight into the issues of the day. The CSU, that's the Chicago State University saga between the former presidential candidate of the PDP, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, and the current President Bola Tinubu continues. Now, determined to remove President Bola Tinubu from office, the presidential candidate of the PDP, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, has applied for leave of the Supreme Court to file what he termed as fresh evidence. Now, Supreme Court, Atiku files fresh evidence, seeks Tinubu's disqualification. Now, the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku, has filed what he termed as fresh evidence against President Bola Tinubu at the Supreme Court. The former vice president, who has also urged the Supreme Court to accept the new evidence, specifically sought the leave of the Apex Court to tender Tinubu's academic records, which he said were handed over to him by the Chicago State University on the 2nd of October 2023. Now, in a motion he filed through his team of lawyers led by Chief Chris Uche SAN, the PDP presidential candidate said the evidence he is seeking to tender before the court will establish his allegations that Tinubu submitted forged documents to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in aid of his qualification to participate in the presidential election. Now, recall that Atiku granted a press conference in Abuja on Thursday over Tinubu's academic records as released by the Chicago State University, where he said Nigeria's reputation was at stake and Nigerians everywhere in the world will be affected negatively. It doesn't matter whether you're at home or in diaspora, you will be affected. Now, Atiku argued that Tinubu, by his action, committed forgery and perjury and therefore deserved to be removed from office by the Supreme Court. Now, he said a 32-page document he is seeking to tender was released by the Chicago State University on the order of Judge Nancy Maldonado of the District Court of Illinois, Eastern Division, Illinois, United States of America. Now, Atiku predicated his motion for leave to file fresh evidence against Tinubu on Order 2, Rule 12.1 of the Supreme Court Rules 1985. Section 137.1 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, as well as the inherent jurisdictions of the Apex Court as encapsulated in Section 66A of the 1999 Constitution. Now, the PDP presidential candidate prayed the court for an order granting him leave to produce and for the court to receive fresh and additional evidence by way of deposition on oath from the Chicago State University for use in this appeal to wit. Now, the certified discovery disposition made by Caleb Westberg on behalf of Chicago State University on October the 3rd, disclaiming the certificate presented by the second respondent, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to the Independent National Electoral Commission. Now, he equally prayed for the Apex Court to receive the said deposition in evidence as an exhibit in the resolution of this appeal, and to further make orders the Apex Court may deem fit to make in the circumstances of the case. Now, the application was predicated on 20 grounds, among which included a claim that the deposition sought to be adduced along with its accompanying documents would have important effect in the resolution of this appeal. Now it says, and I quote, "The deposition is relevant to this matter, having confirmed that the certificate presented by the second respondent to the Independent National Electoral Commission did not emanate from the CSU, and that whoever issued the certificate presented by the second respondent did not have the authority of the Chicago State University, and that the second respondent never applied for any replacement certificate, nor was he issued any replacement certificate by the Chicago State University." It's getting interesting. Now, the deposition was made on October the 3rd after the conclusion on the trial at the court below, and was not available to be tendered at the trial, Atiku added. Now, Atiku, who came second after the Tinubu in the presidential election, had raised allegations of irregularities, non-compliance with electoral laws, and corrupt practices against the conduct of the poll. Now, the former vice president also insisted that Tinubu ought to have contested the poll ab initio, ought not to have contested the poll ab initio for alleged violation of Section 123 of the Nigerian Constitution, which forbids anyone who presented a forged certificate to the Independent National Electoral Commission from participating in an election. But this allegation of Tinubu's alleged non-qualification was struck out by the panel of 5 justices of the Presidential Election Petition Court in Abuja, led by Justice Haruna Tsanami, because it was filed outside of the 21 days required by the law, or so the panel said. Now, Atiku and his party, the PDP, had on September the 18th filed their joint appeal at the Supreme Court against the judgment of the Presidential Election Petition Court, which had, in a judgment delivered on September 6, dismissed their petition against Tinubu's victory for lacking in merit, according to the panel. Now, in their 35 grounds of appeal filed by their team of lawyers led by Uche SAN, told the Apex Court that the tribunal erred in law by concluding that they did not provide or they did not prove their petition. Now, meanwhile, and finally, before the determination of their petition, Atiku had approached a U.S. court for an order compelling the CSU to release Tinubu's academic record so that he could establish before the court that the diploma certificate the president presented to INEC was not genuine but forged, in emphasis. Uche, in a written address filed before the Supreme Court alongside the motion for leave to file fresh additional evidence, submitted that a successful proof of the said allegation will render the second respondent, Tinubu, unqualified to have contested the same election ab initio for presenting the forged certificate to the INEC pursuant to the provisions of Section 137(1)(j) of the Constitution, being a weighty matter of constitutional importance. Now, he cited the Apex Court's judgment in the case of Sella versus Abba in 2017, where it was held that, and I quote, "the Constitution intends that anyone who had presented a forged certificate to INEC should stand automatically disqualified for all future elections if, as in this case, a court of tribunal finds the certificate to have been forged, and it matters not whether or not such fact is further fraudulent or desperately concealed in subsequent elections or declaration forms." Now, I continue on the quote. "No decent system or polity should condone or through judicial policy and decisions encourage a dangerous culture of forging certificates with impunity to seek electoral contest." Now, Uche submitted that the Supreme Court has the power, the jurisdiction, and the discretion to grant an application for adducing fresh or additional evidence on appeal. Now, the fresh evidence must be such that, if given, it would probably have an important effect on the results of the case, although indeed and justly. Though the application was dated 5th of October, Atiku's legal team perfected the filing process on Friday night. Now, the Supreme Court has yet to fix a date for the motion to be heard. And you would agree with me if I say that this academic record saga seems not to be going away anytime soon. Even on all mainstream media, discussions are ceaseless and continuous as other lawyers and experts, pundits and analysts, public affairs analysts give their opinion on the issue. But at this point, the question I'd like to ask on Political Spectrum is, should we be facing this at this level? Should this kind of embarrassment and degradation of our reputation, should it be at the front burner? What are the roles of all the parties interested? All these questions will be answered when we get to the part where we're going to be having conversations back and forth. That is a major discussion, but let's quickly run through some of the developments over the weekend that is important. We also bring to the fore for discussion. Now, terrorists kill 10, abduct several others in fresh Zamfara attack. 10 people were killed and several others injured when terrorists attacked a convoy of vehicles on Magami-Guzo Road in Zamfara State on Saturday. Now, several passengers were also abducted while the terrorists burnt 3 vehicles in the convoy. Now, the attack occurred around 3 p.m. at Dogon Swani, while a convoy of several vehicles were moving from Magami to the state capital, Guzo, in Zamfara. Now, media sources gathered that the wounded vigilante and other passengers have been rushed to the Federal Medical Center in Guzo. The bodies of those killed in the attack have been deposited at the center's mortuary. Now, I want to quote his statement. We took 10 corpses into the mortuary on Saturday. 5 of them were vigilantes. The level of injury suffered by some of the people brought into the hospital is sickening. A male nurse at the hospital told the press. Now, he asked for anonymity because he was not authorized to speak to the press on the matter. He continued, and I quote, he said some of the wounded had bullet wounds with bruises while others were trampled on in the commotion. Now, a local source from Dansadao, who asked not to be named for safety reasons, said most of those involved were from his community. The vigilante group members were providing security to the vehicles when the terrorists ambushed them around Dogon Sauni. They started firing shots, thereby forcing the drivers to stop. The vigilantes were in the vehicles too, and so far 5 of them and 5 passengers have been confirmed dead. But there could be several others because we're yet to get the place to look for more dead bodies, he said. That is so touching. Now, the source said one of the vehicles burnt. A truck was carrying about 100 bags of soybean to the state capital. Now, the police spokesperson in the state, Yazid Abubakar, didn't respond to calls and SMS sent to him by the reporter for more details about the attack. Now, Magami is 53 kilometers from Guzo, but due to the security challenges confronting the state, vehicular movements have become minimal. Now, the highway, which also links the state capital with Dansadao, has become notorious for recording terrorist activities. Now, soldiers and vigilantes usually escort vehicles, convoys from the 2 main towns in the area, Magami and Dansadao, to Guzo and other major towns in the state. Now, the other northwest, especially Sokoto and Katsina, are witnessing an upsurge in terrorist attacks also. Now, 25 students of the Federal University of Guzo were abducted about 2 weeks ago in Katsina State. 5 students of Federal University Dutsinma were also abducted less than a week ago, while terrorists launched a 3-day consecutive attack on separate villages in Binji local government area of Sokoto State. I'd like to say at this point that may the souls of those who have been killed rest in peace. Enough to be talked about, enough to be addressed when it comes to the issue of security. And a lot of analysts and a lot of Nigerians and a lot of citizens have said, okay, of the so-called robust plans of the new administration, it doesn't look like the part that takes care of security of lives and property, security of other things is at the fore. Now, the question is, what will government do? Because ever since May 29 till now, hundreds, if not thousands of people have been killed in successive attacks, and it's obvious that accusing fingers are pointed to a particular set of ethnic nationalities, and their targets most times also are particular sets of ethnic nationality, howbeit minorities. So all these issues we hope to also bring to the fore. Okay, moving to the next development real quick. Pengassan confirms return of fuel subsidy under Tinubu. How true would that be? All right, the Petroleum and Natural Gas Staff, Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Pengassan, has confirmed the return of fuel subsidy under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, President Tinubu had announced the removal of fuel subsidy on his first day in office, leading to increase in fuel price from 197 to 480 naira and to 570. Now, the pump price was subsequently reviewed upwards to 620 naira. However, there were reports that the price would go up as a result of fluctuation in the global oil market. There were reports that the federal government intervened to prevent further rise in pump price, but the government denied this. However, media found documents which showed that despite the numerous assurances by Tinubu that subsidy was gone, the federal government still paid, according to Pengasan, 169.4 billion as subsidy in August here to keep the pump price at 620 per litre. Now, a document by the Federal Account Allocation Committee, FAC, cited by our reporter, showed that in August 2023, the Nigerian liquefied natural gas and LNG paid $275 million as dividends to Nigeria via NNPCL, while NNPCL used $220 million as 169.4 billion at 770 naira per dollar out of 275 to pay for the PMS subsidy. Then NNPC held back $55 million illegally, according to Pengasan. Now, the government neither confirmed nor denied the story. Speaking on a television program, Festus Osifo, national president of Pengasan, said due to the cost of crude oil in the international market and the exchange rate, the government still pays subsidy on petrol. He continues, and I quote, "They," that's government, "are paying subsidy today. In reality, today there is subsidy because as of when the earlier price was determined, the price of crude in the international market was somewhere around $80 for a barrel. But today it has moved to about $93 to $94 per barrel for Brent crude. So because it has moved, then the price of petroleum also needed to move," he said. He says, and I continue, he said, before the government can stop subsidizing petroleum, two things must happen. One, the only reason the price will be moved is when you are able to manage your exchange rate effectively and you are able to pump in supply and bring down the exchange rate. So if the exchange rate comes down today, we will not be paying subsidy. But with the exchange rate value and the price of the crude oil in the international market, we have introduced subsidy, the Pengasan boss has said. So here you have that. Pengasan is accusing federal government of still paying fuel subsidy in spite of the fact that it has announced that fuel subsidy is gone. And according to them, Nigerians are at the forefront of bearing those discomforts. And then imagine people turning around to hear that subsidy is still being paid. And they gave reasons that because the petroleum products are now at the behest of the forces of market forces of demand and supply. When it goes up, it's expected that the price of fuel will go up. And in order not to allow the price go beyond 620, the federal government has intervened, howbeit not in the full glare of the media. So Pengasan is bringing that out. We expect that anytime from now, a government aide or someone from the presidency will be able to address that issue so that it will be clear enough for the Nigerian citizens to understand. Real quick, let's take another development. For those of you who have been following, still bordering on the issue of insecurity, for those of you who have been following the stories of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, Sunday Igboho, and a few other people who are agitating, according to them, agitating for their people, Sunday Igboho, we heard, has regained freedom from Benin after 2 years, in that country. Now, the Yoruba nation agitator, Sunday Adeyemi, better known as Sunday Igboho, has regained his freedom from the Beninese authorities. The embattled agitator said on Sunday he was now legally free to leave Cotonou, capital of Benin Republic, to Nigeria and other countries. Now, he says, and I quote, "I am now free to return to Nigeria and visit any country in the world. I have fulfilled all the legal conditions attached to my bail a few years back, and I am coming home to Nigeria, my country of origin, any moment from now." He's continuing, and I'm quoting him, "I can confirm to you that I am now free to come back to Nigeria. There's no legal encumbrances again, even though I have been living in Cotonou for some time. I can confirm to you categorically that I have now secured the liberty to leave Cotonou for Nigeria," Adeyemi told the Nigerian press on Sunday. Now, he regained freedom after 2 years of trial by the Beninese government. Now, the media reports that Adeyemo stirred the hornet's nest when he declared the Yoruba nation sovereignty in March of 2021. He started a campaign to chase killer headsmen and kidnappers out of the southwest states and went on to call on the Yoruba in Hausa, Fulani or Igbo territories to return home. We could remember then it was still under the administration of President Buhari, and a lot of issues were stirred up before the issues began. But hey, here you have it now. He is saying that he's now free and there are no more legal encumbrances and is free to come back home to Nigeria, his place of birth and origin, or any other country. All right, at this point, we'll go on a short break. We have someone who's going to be joining us virtually from Uyo here, who's going to be shedding more light on these major developments as we have our normal conversations on the show. So we'll go on a short break. We'll be right back. If you're just joined us, it's Political Spectrum on Spectrum Television. Stay glued to your TV set. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back. Join us again.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on Channel 421 on Star Times to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
All right, many thanks for staying tuned. If you're just tuned in, it's Political Spectrum on Spectrum Television. And we like to introduce our guest who's joining us live from Uyo, but virtually, Citizen MKO. Citizen MKO is the Executive Director, Open Forum, an active member of civil society. He's also a public affairs analyst. Citizen MKO, good morning to you. Nice seeing your bright face this morning. All right, can you hear me?
Good morning, Otumba, as I told you. Thank you very much. It's a good day.
Nice to see you. All right.
I can hear you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Let's start off this morning with our major discourse. And, well, it's what has been forming the fulcrum of discussions across major mainstream platforms, and that is the dispute, disparity, disagreements, and findings concerning the Chicago State University academic records of our current president and #1 citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, being accused by the PDP presidential candidate Atiku. And like I always say when I have my panelists, I say this particular saga doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. And right now, it's obvious that the opposition against the party, the ruling party, is using it as a build-up, you know, to the Supreme Court sessions, which will soon be announced. Now, you have been following the certificate saga between Atiku and Tinubu and the Chicago State University in totality, because there's been developments, you know, back and forth. How do you evaluate this whole situation, Citizen?
Thank you very much, and I want to greet our viewers wherever you are in the world. I say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's good to be here once again. The ongoing certificate saga will have taken Nigeria by complete storm and will have sounded very strange if we never had anything similar, somehow similar to that at the national level. When you look back in 1999, at the advent of this very dispensation of democracy, the then Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Salisu Buhari, immediately after his election as a Speaker, a news magazine did an expose that, if I remember the headline vividly, they called it Face of a Liar. And that very edition, which the Speaker denied, he was accused of having not graduated from the university in
Canada.
Toronto.
Yeah, remember?
And yes. And by the time he sued the publisher and the newspaper house, but by the time they put some pressure on him, less than 50 days, less than 60 days, he owned up and apologized that he is sorry. He made a very touching press statement, which I think the copies are still there online, apologizing to his family, his friends, associates, and the country, but vowed that the shame he has brought upon the country is even going to inspire him more to do better in the future. And he resigned. I think he was tried and sentenced, and he was eventually granted state pardon. That was 1999, and he was a PDP member of the Federal House. Thereafter, we had the Werem Evans and Ivan, which were looking for S and no S, and all of that, and that is history now. But fast forward to 2023, yes, of Nigeria, since he entered, there was not much about that. I can't recall having that issue when he contested and won as a senator, but contesting as a governor in Lagos State, he had a running battle not from a political party or an opposition party or even a candidate. He had a running battle with one of the foremost activists in the country, Chief
Okay, we may seem to be having some technical hitch there, but I believe what Citizen MKO is trying to do is to lay the history started with the Toronto guy, Buhari, Salisu, I think Salisu Buhari, who was the Speaker of the House of Reps then also talked about Evan Ewerem and Ewere, where you had some conflicting spellings of names, and the thing continued. So the question is, this is not the first time that we've had politically exposed persons of very, very high repute or high ranks to be seen or to have been alleged to have purportedly presented forged or fake certificates as they were. But this is a very special and peculiar one, and I would make it very, very clear as to why it is peculiar. It is peculiar because, one, it is the office of the #1 citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is almost like the ambassador of Nigeria to the whole world. The question is, what will the world be thinking as we speak? And then it's also a marker or an indicator. I'm not saying that it has been established that it is true. I'm just saying these are the optics. This is how it will be perceived to be, because we will not judge until we have facts. These are still at the level of allegations, although the Chicago State University has come out to say, okay, we didn't issue this one, this certificate that was presented to INEC, but however, according to the CSU, we have vendors. In the case where you misplace your certificate, those vendors can help reprint certain copies. It may not be exactly the way it is if we print it. But so the registrar has disclaimed completely that they did not issue the one being paraded or the one that was issued to INEC. So back and forth and back and forth. At this time now, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the PDP presidential candidate, is moving it further and saying, okay, since there are provisions from the Supreme Court rules that fresh evidence can be tendered as leave, L-E-A-V-E, if those fresh evidence will affect or they are completely, important to the case on ground. So what the level we are getting to now, because cases have been filed at the Supreme Court, and we expect that any time from now the Supreme Court will come out and issue a date. So the question we have now is, will the Supreme Court admit fresh evidence or fresh materials in pursuit of the final conclusion of this case? And as it is, it may look like the opposition party PDP may have a very strong case at hand, because what they are trying to do now is to prove forgery, But then the ruling party is saying that in the first instance, the argument was that Tinubu did not attend CSU, and that technically and without emotions, there are two separate arguments. All right, I would say, Citizen, I want you to continue on your argument, but how do you see these issues between the legal aids of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar and the counsel of the president himself?
Yes, thank you very much. At the point I lost contact, but I can still follow through my thoughts. Yeah. The last aspect I want to lay as a foundation has to do with the immediate past president, General Muhammadu Buhari. He also had the issue, but his own case was different in the sense that his highest qualification happened to have been a school set, or said to have been a school set, but he said he didn't have it, and he was with the military, and the military came out and said it wasn't with him, until eventually WAEC had to come up with something which people read meanings to, that they just wanted to protect Mr. President and all of that. Having laid that foundation, the most elaborate issue having to go to the courts within the country, a tribunal, and then having to, for the litigants to go to US, is the issue of the authenticity of the certificates, particularly the degree certificates of our President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. You have laid the foundation already. I don't want to belabor us with giving whatever background. The reality is that there are too many issues involved having to do with Mr. President, but because Atiku has been able to get the court to order the Chicago State University to give him the academic records of Bola Ahmed Tinubu is of great concern, particularly when you recall that he has appealed and his lawyer made a statement which to me maybe he shouldn't have made, maybe he should have looked for some other words to use. His lawyer had said that CS should not release the records because it will cause severe and irreparable damage to the image of Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. For me, that statement wasn't good enough. It was maybe born out of desperation to do everything to stop it, but it will naturally speak as if it's an indictment. Because when you look at the fact that Bola Ahmed Tinubu has said he was a brilliant student, an award-winning student, a first-class student, why would you have issues with your records being released, particularly having to do with the gender and other related issues? So what has Tinubu been able to bring out? At least we've seen the transcript of the court processes where the registrar, Caleb Westberg, has said on oath, yes, that the certificates that Bola Ahmed Tinubu submitted to INEC as candidate was not from them, but that they have a system where if somebody has missed his certificate, he could use a vendor. But we've also gotten to know that using a vendor does not imply you walking to any business center anywhere in the world on your own to do a design and give yourself a certificate. That is not true. A vendor is supposed to work with the university and to give the exact replica of the certificate that has been missed. But since Mr. President, from records, has never shown any indication that of things. But the most disturbing aspect has to do with the transcript that was brought in from Southwest College. That transcript happens to have an F for a female, that a female is the owner of the transcript. And that transcript also shows that the qualification the person used to even be qualified to enter university happens to have been a secondary school called Government College Lagos. And we now got to know that at that time, the government college in 1970, where he claimed, or he or she claimed that the person graduated from, was not in existence. It was established by the then governor, Mobolaji Johnson. And that was 4 years after. So that brings to question the qualification to have even entered the university. Quite disturbing. And you look at the Mr. President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you will find that he does not include the primary or secondary school or any other school he attended. He only just feel that he has a degree from Chicago State University. And some people were asking, how come we don't have a background of a primary and secondary? But you look back in 1999, he had earlier in the INEC form indicated that he schooled at University of Chicago, which was, if it's different, that is a federal university. And he mentioned a school in Ibadan, Government College Ibadan, primary school, but all those have been dropped now. So there are issues about that, but as challenging as it is, I want to believe that now is the time this issue of those Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu have valid certificates I am believing that now is when the matter will be rested finally in the sense that the Supreme Court of Nigeria has records from the university that have accepted that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was their student. Only that the certificate given to INEC did not emanate from them. And they have also issued a sample certificate to 2 persons. One of them happens to be Oluwole Afolabi, the lawyer to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That was in June when he applied through that lawyer. And then there is also an activist, Barrister Mike Enauru-Eba, who, after hearing or seeing the revelation by David Hundeyin, went on his own and applied, and he received the certificate of Bola Ahmed Tinubu from the same university. Some of the key issues raised in the certificate submitted to INEC is that the signatories on that certificate, the number of signatories are more than the number of signatories in the normal Chicago State University certificate, and that somebody who was not even in the employ of that university had signed the first one that Bola Tinubu used, and that happens to be Elnora Daniel.
Okay.
And when Enauru went to get it, I guess the same person was also a signatory, and the person had left that institution. So it begs the question, what is really going on? Is Chicago State University playing some form of games? Is it a university of honor? And recently there's an interview that a blogger had with a former student by name Jay Palmer. Jay Palmer was a student there and was also a journalist who worked on this school magazine. He made some staggering revelations that there is quite a lot of corruption in the system going on in that university, and that actually a former president and a former director of finance were convicted of fraud and were jailed. I listened to an analyst this morning.
Okay.
There's a university don in Akwa Ibom State here. He says that the rating of the University of Chicago is very low.
Okay, citizen, if you can hear me, we may still have some distortions with some technical distortions, but I believe you are expanding the arguments very clearly to mark the major indicators. Now, a popular investigative journalist, howbeit works outside of conventional media, but as it is now, a lot of his works are now flowing within mainstream media, has come out to say, I'm talking about Mr. David Hundeyin, who is seeking asylum in Ghana, has come out to say that even the issues have been escalated to the level where 5 major agencies in America, talking about the Inland Revenue Services that they have, the FBI, the CIA, the drug enforcement agencies, and a few other agencies have been written, they've been written to, and they have all responded that they have over 70,000 files on this said person. And according to him, he said that they just begged that, okay, let's streamline, the pages to some major, filters. And then they will have access to 2,500 documents concerning this issue, and that he promised us that very soon documents will soon start flying out and other issues will be unveiled. Now, the registrar of Chicago State University, which you have alluded to the fact that they may have reputation issues too over the years, and they may not have too much of ratings when it comes to top tertiary institutions based on maybe a few allegations of corrupt practices. The registrar admitted that the school did not issue the certificate. That is quite clear. You know, the one that Tinubu submitted to INEC. You know, and we know that INEC rules, even to the layman, you don't even have to be a lawyer. It's clear on the particular position. Once you submit a certificate that cannot be verified as authentic, this and this will happen. What then will be your disposition? You know, I know you're not a lawyer, but I know you have a very strong opinion and you have a very strong knowledge on the subject matter. That alone should now not be a grounds for this. I'm not preempting the Supreme Court. You know, we are not having discussions to create some kind of sub judice or anything. But should that not prompt the Supreme Court to say something about it?
It's not a matter of prompting the Supreme Court. The case between Atiku and Mr. President, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, has gone beyond the two personalities. The case has to do with who we are as Nigerians and who we are and how we are to be seen in the global community. As we speak, recall, you just mentioned now that David Hundeyi had applied to the United States, United States attorneys, the Department of State, and FBI, CIA, DEA, and the rest through a council there. I think his name is Aaron Greenspan.
Yeah,
and
Greenspan.
The people, the agencies have approved that they are going to release this document, but Hundeyi said he cannot process that volume of documents.
70,000 files, yes.
It's been streamlined to 500, and it's 700 and actually 7,170.
Yes, 7,000, yeah.
Now, the release of those documents will begin this October, and 500 other agencies are at between 800 to 1,000 documents every month. And like it's been discussed globally, for somebody to have that volume of reports, that volume of records with the FBI and other agencies makes that person a person of interest. So the interest generated, and I must say this, it's been said that Caleb Westbrook, the registrar, while giving his statements in court, there's a quotation saying that.
But the development continues will begin to, you know, churn out documents. According to him, he says it's not only about the Chicago State University issues concerning aiding some sort of trafficking in heroin and a lot of other activities has come to the fore. And once those agencies are interested in you, you become a person of serious interest. So we expect, the questions now will be, what will be in such documents? What are we expecting, you know, to come out from such documents? And a lot of Nigerians are worried. And you know why? We're talking about the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We've had Salisu Buhari's cases, we've had Ewerem Gates and other things, but this is the office, the highest office, and even by extension, the chairman of the Economic Community of West African States. So a lot, it's a very huge issue here when it comes to reputation, and the interests of Nigerians, the future of Nigerians hang in the balance. We've had our reputation, you know, degraded over the decades, where you have to go to an airport and then you're separated and, you know, screened separately. And here we have this case again from the office of the presidency. Yes, citizen.
Okay. So I was trying to clear the air. The ongoing conversation that Caleb Westbrook had accused Nigerians that, oh, forgery is a Nigerian thing. I'm sure you must have read it. I don't think that's exactly what he meant. What he meant was that the desire to have certificate, hard copy of certificate, is a Nigerian thing. Not that we are forgers. If he ever said that, the country should be very interested to take that up with him. But I don't think that's what he meant. And for me, this case is really about Nigeria and our image and how we are to be seen. And also juxtaposing with the fact that some very revealing documents are likely to come out from the FBI, CIA, and DEA, and
yeah, my point exactly. And the Inland Revenue Service, the IRS, yes. Go on.
Yes. So it's going to be something very awful because already from court papers, previous judgments like the forfeiture of the $460,000 said to be proceeds of drug trafficking, and we heard at the last judgment where the court ruled that that it was a bank account that was that had the case and not Asiwaju, and even his witness during the tribunal did not say that did not happen. So if the reality now comes out that truly, if true, that Asiwaju was involved in drug trafficking and the proceeds that was domiciled in an account was, the seizure was based on the fact that that account was being used for drug trafficking, we are going to have more dents. And you look at, you just concluded a United Nations General Assembly, where Mr. President had a special letter from the American president for a meeting on the sidelines. That meeting did not hold. And a number of persons are reading meanings to it, that it must have been out of security report that President Biden decided to avoid holding that meeting. I can't recall any past Nigerian president that went on such an important conference and never had a meeting with the sitting president of America. That's not good for us. Generally speaking, the ruling that qualification for election is a pre-election matter is a conditional thing. Section 137, sub 1, sub G talks about a candidate that submits forged documents is an automatic disqualification.
Yeah.
And it is a pre-election and post-election matter. So the story or any judgment anywhere that, oh, qualification is a pre-election matter is not true. And we have a lot to learn from the American court, where Justice Nancy, what's her name now, Maldo something? Justice Nancy Maldonado of the District Court of Illinois, Eastern Division of Illinois, the way she handled the Atiku Asiwaju case gives hope that truly judiciary can be the last hope of the common man, and is where justice at disparities holds sway. And so the judiciary, thank God, we are not going to a lower court or even appeal court. The case is going to the Supreme Court. And so I'm expecting that the outcome will be based on justice if truly there was a case of forgery. And the supportive documents have been brought. It's been said that you cannot bring fresh things. What Atiku is bringing, by my an analyst, are not fresh things before now. And there's provision in the law that the Supreme Court can decide to receive such fresh evidence, as long as it's going to be in line. Already things have been filed. And yes,
Okay, we expect that this Supreme Court judgment is going to be an interesting one. And we need to be very careful here because first, we are not lawyers, but hey, we are citizens of the Federal Republic and we also have a right to opinion. We heard, you know, by precedent that the Supreme Court only most times reviews the work or the processes of the presidential election petition court, or in some cases the appeal court, because the Supreme Court is the arbiter. So if we see a case where Supreme Court just supervises what has already been judged, do you think, I don't know whether you can hear me clearly, but do you think that the Supreme Court will have the impetus or the will or the what do you call it, the boldness to admit fresh evidences? Because a lot of lawyers have argued recently that the admittance of fresh evidences that are relevant to the case is the exclusive prerogative of the Supreme Court, pending when they are going to, you know, pending when they are going to announce the date when the Supreme Court judgment of the processes and hearings will begin before the final judgment. A lot of people are worried that, oh, is this not coming late? You know, and you know, those who are in support of the ruling party have said the judiciary is not emotional. It is supposed to be, the law is the law, and there are no sentiments, there are no emotions. So there are preceding arguments now that these things may be coming a little too late. A lot of materials that have been admitted in the presidential election petition court have been put on trial and they've been examined and judgment has been made. Do you see Supreme Court admitting fresh evidence? That was the question I wanted to ask. Yeah, can you hear me? Citizen, please let me know if you can hear me. Okay, at this point, I think we'll go on a short break and try and rectify this issue briefly.
yes, I don't see this. It's not all that. Yes, I can hear you.
Wow.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
I can hear you. Hello?
Yeah, go on. I can hear you clearly. Go on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. I can hear you clearly.
No. Hello? Okay, I can hear you too. So, good. The matter at hand is not just fresh. Yeah, I'm talking. I'm on. The matter at hand, what has been brought, is not something new. It's just something to strengthen what had already been filed. And so, for the Supreme Court to do justice and not judgment, and looking at the image of the country and the president, we have to judge between, should we protect Mr. President, supposing he actually has issues, but we must protect the presidency. Do we uphold what the world will have known to be false? Or do we protect the country by saying, yes, truly the university that is supposed to have issued this certificate, this university says the certificate that you tendered was not.
Okay, citizen, can you still hear me? I think at this point.
By that, this.
Hello, citizen, can you hear me? Okay, if you can hear me clearly, we're due for a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up on the conversations. Please join us again.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my
this
lord.
an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people. But there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on Channel 421 on Star Times to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
All right, many thanks for staying tuned, and apologies for a few of the technical hitches we may be having there. I still have with me Citizen MKO, who was, trying to establish some theories and facts on the issues on ground. The questions are, do we have a sense, based on the immediate past judgment from the PEPT, do we have a sense that this Supreme Court, in spite of the fact that it's only to supervise and look at and examine in the procedures and processes of the petition, do you have a sense that the Supreme Court might or might not admit fresh evidence? That was the question he was trying to respond to. So, citizen, I want you to land on this so that we can take on, the last issue before we shut down the show.
Yes, I want to take some quotations. Can you hear me?
Clearly. Just go on. I can hear you clearly.
Yeah. I want to take some quotations set by Festus Kayemo in 2019 while he was trying to defend the Buhari's WAEC certificate controversy. This is what he said. He said, it was a tweet. He said, forgery occurs when the supposed author of a document denies ever making it or denies the authenticity. WAEC has confirmed the authenticity of PMB's certificate by issuing an attestation of it. Case closed. That was Festus Kayemo in 2019 defending the Buhari's certificate saga. And when you juxtapose that with what CSU has done, we leave the answers to the judges. And Caleb Westbeck, what he said on oath, I want to quote him. He said, Mr. Tinubu's certificate dated June 22, 1979, and tendered to INEC on June 17, 2022, was not issued by the school, and its administrators could, therefore, not be able to authenticate its source.
Okay.
Go back to 2022 at Chatham House. Mr. President is quoted to have said, Chicago State University, where I graduated, has attested to that. Now I can announce that I have received my original replacement degree certificate from them. That was at Chatham House. An international media source, AP News, listen to what they have said over this matter. I quote, two things make President Bola Tinubu's case particularly grave. The first is that it is not the first or the second time the former governor of Lagos State has been accused of being less than or different from whom he claims to be. It is public knowledge, first in Nigeria, but now internationally, that none but he knows who he is. And if you accept one claim, it is immediately controverted by another. AP News. I talked with my friend, and he described the scenario as a bad gun trap metaphor. The more you struggle to get out of the gun board, you get more stuck.
The more it becomes more difficult to get out. Yes.
Yes, and my final take on that is a thing that I've seen people for so many years is about safety. It says when an accident is imminent, you look for a way out with less casualty. I said earlier, this very case is not about Atiku, not about Tinubu. It is now about us, we the people of the country. And everybody, every right-thinking person, every patriot must rise to say that justice is done, either to vindicate Mr. President that he has done no wrong, and the evidence are there that to prove that he has not done anything wrong, we set him free, and the country will be free. But if Mr. President Bola Tinubu had over time, because of whatever, people have their weaknesses. But here we are now, and it's found that truly there were things that would not make him to be qualified. Nothing on earth, absolutely nothing on earth, should make anybody to want to free him and destroy the country. When an accident is imminent, people must look for a way out with less casualty. That's my last thought on that matter.
All right. A lot of people are expectant. A lot of people think at this point, I mean, there should be some kind of closure, because just like you had said, it has become beyond the presidential candidates and the current president. It has now become an issue about the identity of Nigeria, yet again. And a lot is at stake if there is no reputation and no integrity. It's not enough to have territorial integrity to be called a country. The value placed on the average citizen of Nigeria is important. And it was Lord Denham that also said that when a judge is trying a case, it is the judge himself that is on trial. So a lot is expected from the Supreme Court. Let's see how the Supreme Court, handles this issue. Let's see whether the Supreme Court will admit fresh evidence, according to its rules dating back to 1985. And let's hope that justice will be served and not seen to be served. Justice will be served fairly. I think at this point we will have to draw the curtains on this show. It's been an exciting one. Apologies that the communication technicalities didn't allow a smooth program, but be that as it may, a lot of information were churned out. Thank you so much, Citizen MKO, for always finding time to join us, sir.
My pleasure always.
Thank you so much. All right. So that's about all we can take. Once again, apologies. Remember, the conversation continues on all our platforms, especially social media platform. Follow us on X at SpectrumT Online. A lot of information, a lot of updates. And remember that whatever it is we do on air, we also have enough of it on our platform, on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. All the reports we've had before, just go to www.spectrumtvlive.ng to get all the information, and then go to our Spectrum Television on YouTube to get all the videos of our programs, especially our flagship programs. Remember to follow me at Austin Honor on X. Austin Honor is one word, and share your opinions, and I'm sure to respond to you. The conversations about nation building and deepening democracy continues. Have a lovely day. See you on the next edition tomorrow.